Well, welcome back to Balanced Health. Alternative medicine, some work, some don't, some are harmful, and some the Bible expressly forbids. Which ones can you really trust? Well, Dr. Walt Larimore is here to shed some light on this topic, and as I said right before the break, he's written a wonderful book called Alternative Medicine, which may have had its birth in that early little mountain practice that you were in. Tell us about that.
Well, it did. Working in a town of 900 people in the middle of nowhere, there were many alternative therapies that people tried. But also, as I began to do medical media and practiced more, not just my patients asking questions about natural medicines and alternative therapies, but then when I began working with Fox News, and we did Ask the Family Doctor on Fox Health, about 1/3 of the questions that would come in during our Q&A time were about alternative therapy, something that I had not been trained in. And so I needed to find out, what's the evidence say? Where's the support? Where's the refutation? Where's the good? Where's the bad? And where's the ugly?
Yeah, and we need to talk about some of the quackery that's out there. And were you going to say something? Because I want him to address that in a minute as far as regulations.
Well, as it comes to evidence, one of the things that are so difficult for the consumer is that the studies for drugs have billions of dollars behind it. The government's interested, the lobbyists are interested. There's a lot of special interest groups saying, we want to get answers on this drug because there's big money at stake. You can't patent natural products. So there's not billions at stake. There might be tens of millions, but in America's big pot of money, that's not. So the studies are tough, really, to have sound studies. And I've noticed, I'd like you to comment on this, even when something does seem to work. You know, I know organizations that have truly helped people with their cancer through natural means, and they can't get that case published. I'd just like you to comment on the challenges that the natural industry, if you will, the alternative industry, hasn't getting their stuff published.
Oh, Joe, I think it's a real challenge. It's been more of a challenge in the past than it is now, and the reason for that is severalfold. First of all, the government, through the National Institute of Health, is spending more and more money in promoting and looking into natural therapies, which has been a real boom. The second is that the type of studies that have to be published, say for example with natural medicines, don't have to be nearly as rigorous as the studies for pharmaceuticals. The regulation for that, the government regulations, are less. And the third is that we now have more medical peer-reviewed journals that are centered on or focused on alternative and complementary therapies, making it easier to get that information out. In fact, my favorite resource for my patients and for myself when it comes to all natural medicines, herbs, vitamins, and supplements, is called the Natural Medicines Comprehensive Database. It's written by a bunch of doctors of pharmacology. They now have 5,700 monographs on herbs, vitamins, and supplements. And those monographs are chock full, not just of information, but on the references and studies done, not just in the U.S., but around the world, studies that we've never had access to before that are now available to the everyday consumer, and that's good news.
That's a great resource.
Yeah, is it kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly about all these things? Or?
Well, it is, because those pharmacologists have no dog in the fight. They're not selling anything. They don't take advertising. They make their money with the subscription that they sell. They also write a periodical called the Pharmacist Newsletter that goes to pharmacists, and Prescriber's Letter that goes to people like me that are doctors.
We have to be very careful in putting a lot of stock in the testing done by the pharmaceutical companies. You know, that's how we got in trouble with the hormone replacement therapy, you know. So we have to be careful, but that's a neutral company. So.
Well, the good thing about it is you can get evidence-based information, but even if you do find evidence that's supporting a particular therapy, and there's evidence for the use of an herb called St. John's wort in mood disorders, or saw palmetto for prostate. Joe, those of us that are a little bit more mature that have prostate issues or ginkgo biloba for memory issues. There's good evidence supporting those. But in our country, it can be very difficult to find good product because our country is completely unregulated when it comes to natural products. If you want a natural medicine in Germany, it's regulated. And in fact, it's a prescription product. Same thing in France, same thing in Great Britain. Here, there's no regulation. So even if you find evidence that something might work, say St. John's wort for depression, how do you find good product? In our country, we're left really, I think, depending upon the independent testing labs. Good Housekeeping and U.S. Pharmacopoeia and consumer labs are groups that will go out, They'll buy natural medicines where we buy them, you know, at the Walmart or Sam's or on the internet or health food stores or pharmacies. They'll then test them, and they'll test them to see, are they the same from bottle to bottle, from lot to lot, from region to region? Do you get what the label says every time? Number two, are there any contaminants that would be dangerous to your health that you need to know about? And then number three, if it's a tablet, will it be absorbed or will it not? And those sites are available to consumers. My favorite, and by the way, I have no relationship with any of these people.
We're just trying to be helpful. We're just
my
trying to help
favorite is consumerlab.com. It's a subscription site. You have to pay it. That's how they make their money. It's a subscription. But you can go on consumerlab.com, look up St. John's wort or saw palmetto or ginkgo. It will tell you about the substance and how it works and what the evidence is, but then at the bottom it lists all the products they've tested, all of the top sellers. And what I tell my patients, take the list, find of those that are approved the least expensive one, and at least gives us as consumers a little power.
Right, because I'm telling you, you go into a vitamin store and there's thousands of products and you have no clue. And what you said earlier too, there may be just a tiny trace of the good stuff and all the rest might just be garbage.
Well,
so
there's products that may have none of the good stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Or what about calcium? You know, so many of our viewers are taking calcium to prevent osteoporosis and osteopenia, and yet 11% of the tested calcium products in the U.S. are tainted with lead, a heavy metal that can rot out your kidneys. Once it's in you, you can't get it out.
Terrible.
And so, how do you know that? You don't unless you...
You don't. I think it really comes down to the same way you pick a physician. You got to find a company you can trust.
Right.
Just like you have to find a physician you can trust. And I think that's really important when it comes to supplements as well.
Very important. Well, for more information, check out tln.com, and you can click on Balanced Health or Kylea, and that's a company that we really trust. Coming up in our healthy cooking segment, though, a savory meal that is sure to add some new flavors to your dinner table, and more with Dr. Walt Larimore, so don't go away.